Hey there, welcome to LC Yoga. My name is Laura, and today is a beginner flow that focuses on balance. We're just going to jump right into a downward dog. So come onto your mat, maybe start in hands and knees. And downward dog isn't great if you're dealing with any shoulder issues, so you may want to just start in a child's pose if that's where you are today. No problem at all. If you're coming with me into downward dog, curl your toes under, press your fingertips into the ground so you almost lift the palm of your hand off the ground, that center of the palm. And that just gives you a nice base to lift the hips up into an upside down V shape, and you're in a downward dog. Now from here, bend your knees. I always start with my knees bent. I've been doing yoga for a long time, but I always start this way, because it gives you a chance to just kind of figure out, where am I today? And not shocking the body with a stretch you're not ready for. So keep those knees bent, and they may always be bent. There's nothing wrong with that. Press your fingertips into the ground, and that's going to help you keep your your hands from sliding forward. Your heels can be off the ground. You want to work them toward the ground, but more importantly, keep those knees bent and turn your tailbone up toward the sky. Just take a few deep breaths here in downward dog. We're just settling in, getting started with our practice. Now, if you're in child's pose, no worries. You can be sitting back on the heels, toes curled under or not, and just resting there. But you're going to kick the hips up in a second as we're going to step into a lunge. So one more big breath where you are. And then you're going to step into a lunge with your right foot forward between the hands. Leave the back knee off the ground. If you want to do a high lunge, we're going to do some leg lifts up and down. If you're not ready for that, you can hang out here in a low lunge with your knee on the ground. Okay. If you're coming into a high lunge, come on up and reach the arms up. We're just going to warm up a little before we get into our balancing sequence, but you may find this is a little bit of a balance right out of the gate, right? So dig those toes into the ground in the back, and your right knee, your front knee, is going out toward the right a little bit. Take the pressure out of the knee. Now you don't have to be in the deepest lunge. You can be up here. Okay? Arms can be up. If that doesn't feel good on the shoulders, then bring your hands down. Yoga is all about finding how the pose fits you and not trying to contort yourself into a pose. So from here, we're just going to go up and down by bending the back knee and bringing it maybe a couple inches from the floor and then coming back up. And just see how that feels in your body. Do that a couple of times. Big breaths. Don't forget to breathe. Maybe one more time. Come on back up, and then bring the hands down by the front foot and step it back to a downward dog or a child's pose. Either one. 2 big breaths here, pressing those fingertips into the ground, middle of the palm lifts up. Knees are probably still bent. And then we're stepping our left foot forward into a lunge, knee up or down, and then coming up, reaching the arms up or leaving them on the front thigh. Big breaths. And then we're going to lower down a few more times, just like we did by bending that back knee. Pressing the front knee out toward the left. Up and down with breath. Maybe inhaling down and exhaling up. And now bring the hands down by the front foot and step back, downward dog or child's pose. Now this time I'm going to stretch the shoulders a little. I'm going to do that by pressing my chest through the shoulders, bending the knees a little deeper. Let's get that awesome shoulder stretch. And then come back to a neutral downward dog. Then stepping forward with the right foot again. high lunge, come on up. And we're gonna come into a warrior three. Now watch first if you're not familiar with warrior three. But warrior three is a balance on the front foot as we come into a T shape, reaching the arms forward. Now, if you're not ready for this, bring that back foot down, right? And you're just leaning forward, kind of getting your bearings there. You can also bring your fingertips to the ground and lift the back foot, right? So find your version of a warrior three. If you're coming with me, reach the fingertips forward and press your left foot back. We're just gonna be here for a beat. And then we're gonna come on up, reaching, standing up and bringing the knee with us. Now, put your left foot on the ground here for a second. I'm gonna turn so you can see me. And with balancing on your standing leg, my best tips are these. Number one, kick into that standing hip. So you're kind of kicking that hip out. And that brings the femur head, your thigh bone, up into the hip socket, makes it a little more secure than if you're standing normally. So kick into that, so just kind of slouch into that. Then when you go to balance, whether it's in big toe, standing big toe, which is what we're about to do, or tree, which we're gonna do here in a minute, that gives you a nice stability. Second, find a gaze point out in front of you, whether it's on the floor, the wall, the ceiling, maybe a tree outside, take your pick. But if you're focusing on one thing, that helps keep your balance. So what we're gonna do is start to draw the left knee in toward the chest and grab a hold of it with your left hand. All right, so just kind of get your bearings there and see how that goes. If that's not great, maybe just rest that toe on the ground and maybe lift it up and down until you find that balance. Now, if you're standing here grabbing a hold of your knee, you want to hang out right there, no problem at all. If you want to try standing big toe, you're going to grab a hold of that big toe with your two peace fingers on your left hand. Maybe your right hand goes onto your hip. And maybe hang out there. Maybe this is enough. But if you want to try kicking it out, remember that gaze point. Find that gaze point out in front of you and focus on that. And then start to kick your heel out. And leave your knee as bent as it needs to be so you can stay straight up and down. You don't want to bend forward like that. You want to stay straight up. Wobbles are okay. And if you fall out, come right back in. Keep that gaze point. Press that heel out. Doesn't have to be the deepest stretch. It's more about the balance in your standing leg than anything else. One more breath here. And then release and just kind of shake that out. And then we're going to, in the same leg, do tree pose. So for tree, we're going to do the same thing. Kind of lean into your right hip. Kick it out toward the right. And then draw that knee back up. And this time we're going to place it either on the thigh or maybe the knee, maybe the calf, maybe down by the ankle if you need that toe to help you balance. Okay, so find your place. If you are pressing your foot into the thigh, again, kick that hip out and press the foot into the thigh. And again, that's just going to help with the balance. Maybe your hands come into prayer in front of the heart. Find your gaze point. Your mind. So I'm going to stare awkwardly at you just for a moment here. Hang out there, tree pose, stand tall. Big breaths. And then release and shake the legs out. And we're going to just head right back down into a downward dog. Maybe it's a child's pose. If you're coming into child's pose, sit back on those heels, rest the forehead. Just take a little break here. If you're up into downward dog, maybe straighten one leg and then the other. Just pressing into that. You'll find that with each downward dog, you're feeling a little more open, especially as we get warmed up. Now we're going to step forward with the left foot. We're going to take that balancing flow on this side. So come on up into your high lunge and reach the arms up. Again, Hands can be on the front thigh. High lunge. Now from here, we're going to take that warrior three. So we're going to kind of get a little bit of momentum, leaning back a little and then reach it forward. Warrior three. Again, back foot can be down, helping you balance, or you may have your fingertips on the ground with your foot kicked up. Your choice. If you're doing warrior three, reach your fingertips forward, press that foot back, T shape. Big breath here. And then come on up to standing, left hand, left hip, right hand, right knee. If that's not working out, maybe those toes are on the ground. Now, if you want to come into standing big toe, you can just hang out here holding the knee, no problem at all, or grab a hold of that toe with your two first fingers on your right hand. And this is stage two. Maybe you just hold right there. Find that gaze point. And if you want to take the full pose, start to press your heel forward, standing straight up and down, so leave that knee as bent as it needs to be. Hold that gaze point. We're kicked into that left hip this time. So we're feeling stable. Keep that standing leg nice and straight. One more breath. And release. And shake it out. And we're gonna take tree, same leg. So again, we're kicking into that left leg. And you can bring that foot to the ankle, the calf or the knee, or maybe all the way into the thigh. And you're sort of pressing the thigh bone over toward the left, hands in prayer. Finding that gaze point. Hello, gaze point. Good to see you again. Big breaths. If you want to try bringing the arms overhead, maybe adds a little challenge. If you teeter or fall out, come right back in. The hands went up, bring them back down. Release, shake it out, downward dog. Hands down, knees maybe bent, maybe getting a little straighter. Maybe press the chest through the shoulders again, stretch them out. And then lower the knees to the ground, walk them forward, and roll over and have a seat. And that's it for our balancing sequence. We're just going to stretch it out a little bit, then relax in a Shavasana and call it a day. So bring the bottoms of the feet together, knees out to the side for a Baddha Konasana, butterfly. Press the fingertips into the ground behind you. And use them use your arms as kind of a post to press your chest forward. And start to lean into your hips. Now, if you practice with me, you're going to hear me say a lot in forward folds that we press the chest forward. We don't round. The reason for that is you can pull the back and you don't get much stretch where you're trying to get it. But when you press the chest forward, now you're tilting from the hip here. You're tilting the pelvis forward. And that's where you get that quality stretch and the back is protected. So press that chest forward. Maybe your hands come forward if your body lets you in. And just close the eyes. And let gravity do its thing. Don't worry about what it looks like. Big breaths. Letting the hips release. Each breath you may find that your body lets you in and you tilt just a little bit more forward. Hips go back, chest goes toward your toes. One more long deep breath here in butterfly. And then walk the hands up. And press the heels forward, and we'll take a Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. And start with your knees deeply bent. Press your heels into the ground. We're going to scoot the hips back away from the heels, and you'll feel a stretch when you do that. And again, it's about high quality stretch for us here. So we're pressing the fingertips into the ground, chest goes forward, and leave the knees bent. You won't see that a lot. A lot of times people just straighten the legs and then reach for the toes. And they're not getting much stretch here, and the back is rounded again. So we press the chest forward, knees bent, and then scoot the hips back, letting that straighten the knees. And you get that awesome stretch. If that doesn't feel like much, your hands can come forward on the floor, the calves, maybe the toes. But we're still keeping that action of the chest forward, hips back. Even a nice little micro bend into the knees. Close the eyes. And again, we're not trying to make ourselves fit the pose. We're trying to make this pose fit us. So adjust it until you feel that nice high quality stretch under the legs. Forward folds are deeply relaxing. So take a moment here to just start to melt into it. And then walk the hands up, scoot the hips forward a little so you can roll down onto your back. Let the feet go about the width of the mat, and those feet just flop open. Arms open to the side, palms up. And we'll take a Shavasana, the most important part of practice. This is where our body begins to integrate what it's learned. So just sink into the ground. Get comfy. We're going to be here for just a minute. Give yourself this gift of this moment where you don't have to do anything at all. Just be. Sinking into the earth, knowing she's got you. You can release all those muscles that hold you up all day long. Now when you're ready, start to draw one knee in toward the chest and then the other. Wrap your arms around them. Draw them in toward the chest. Give them a squeeze. Give yourself a little hug. And then make your way on up to sit. Just roll on up. Find a comfortable seat. We always like to close it out. A nice closing ritual kind of helps you transition back into your day. So find a comfortable seat. Maybe you're in half lotus. I only sit this way because it feels better on my knee, but simple cross-legged will do just fine. Whatever feels good. Let the backs of the hands rest on the knees, palms up. Close the eyes and sit tall. Just take a moment here to express a little gratitude to yourself for taking the time to get on the mat. It's a little gift we give each other and ourselves each day. Teaching the body and the nervous system how to calm and self-regulate. And we get a little fit and learn balance at the same time. Thanks for practicing with me today. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed today's class. And if you did, please consider subscribing and maybe throw me a comment on this video and tell me what you thought. And if you check out the For You section of my channel page, you're probably going to find another video that you like if you liked this one. If you're a beginner, look for the beginner series. That's one of my playlists that you'll find also on my channel. And if you're not a beginner, if you've been doing yoga for a while, you're going to find lots of stuff here that will take you from fitness to relaxation and everything in between. So I hope to see you again. Thanks so much.